Well, a very good day to you from sunny California for this very special webinar today. My name is Simon Thompson, and today we're going to be taking a look at one of our esteemed customers' networks, and this is Benbridge Jewelers. So we are joined today by our guest from Benbridge. His name is Greg Olander. Would you like to just say a quick hello to everybody, Greg?
Hello.
Fantastic. We'll come back to you very shortly, Greg. So let's have a look at the agenda for today. So we'll start off with a quick introduction to Cisco Meraki. I want to make sure everybody who's joined us today has an understanding of who we are and how we got to where we are today. We'll then answer the question, why cloud networking? Why are we taking this quite different approach to managing a data network? And then we'll focus a little bit on Cisco Meraki's use in retail, which is certainly a very big sector for us. We'll then take a look at a case study with Benbridge, and Greg will take us through some of the elements of his own installation and experience with Cisco Meraki. We'll review some of the product families from the company, and we'll also finish at the end with a question and answer session. So you can have an opportunity to ask Greg any specific questions you'd like to have answered about his use of our product. Now, throughout the webinar today, you can ask questions at any time. There's no need for you to wait until the end. Over on the right-hand side of your screen, you will see a tool which you can use to just tap away and ask a question. And I'm joined in the room today by Kat, who's excited at the opportunity to answer some of your questions. So anything on the technical Cisco Meraki side, just tap away and we'll try and get those questions answered for you during the session. I'm very happy to announce that for IT professionals who are joining us for the first time today, you will qualify for a free Cisco Meraki 802.11n access point. And this comes together with a 3-year cloud management license. This is a fantastic opportunity for you to get your hands on some of our equipment, but really more importantly than that is to experience the management dashboard interface we use for yourself. And that really is what sets us apart from other vendors in this marketplace. So a great offer for you. And you'll find some eligibility details for this offer at meraki.cisco.com/free-AP. We just ask that you please give us a call to confirm your shipping information. We want to make sure that we get that access point sent to the correct address. So you'll find contact details for doing that in the reminder email you received for this webinar. Alternatively, if you go to our website at the home page, down at the bottom of the page there, you will find a telephone number, and you can use that as well. Okay, so let's kick off with a quick introduction to the company, Cisco Meraki. So we are offering to the marketplace 100% cloud-managed data networking. And we were formed back in 2006 as a company, so quite a young company, but we've grown extremely fast throughout that period. We've in fact been experiencing triple-digit annual growth since we started life back then, 2006. And the concept for our product range really started as a research project that our founders were undertaking whilst they were students at MIT about a decade ago now. They wanted to come up with a new and fresh way of managing a dispersed meshed wireless network. So they had APs sitting up on the top of buildings in the MIT campus area. And I'm sure you'll understand in that part of the world it gets pretty cold at certain times of the year. So they didn't really want to have to go to visit those every 5 minutes if they wanted to make a configuration change. So what they came up with was a centralized management approach. And this is what we would today call cloud-based architecture. And of course, cloud has become the most overhyped term in the history of IT, but it really does have some significant meaning for us because a true cloud architecture is based around centralized servers with replicated data sets amongst those servers in different data centers, for example. So our solution is completely based around this cloud management and covers wireless products, switches, security appliances, and also mobile device management software. And we'll try and touch on as much of this as we can during the next hour. We are trusted by tens of thousands of customers around the world. You can see some of the examples on the screen there, some very big names there as well. So companies like Telmex, the largest telco in South America, Motel 6, I'm sure all of you in the US will know that one well, spread across many, many different locations. And we've also been recognized by the industry for our technology. So if you take a look at the access layer the Unified Access Layer Magic Quadrant from Gartner, we have helped to push Cisco even further up and to the right of that quadrant, which takes us further and further away from the competition. So a very successful interpretation of what we've added to Cisco. We were acquired by the larger company in 2012, and within Cisco we're known as the Cloud Networking Group. That's our specialized area. But even before that acquisition, we were winning awards in our own rights. So for example, in 2012, we won the InfoWorld Technology of the Year Award, which was previously being awarded to products like the iPad and the iPhone. So we were clearly in very good company there. Also, my favorite award of all time, CRN Coolest Technologies, another one that we were very successful with. And as you can see here, we've been trusted by hundreds of retail customers. It really is a very popular segment for us, and the reason is going to be quite clear to you as we go through the demonstrations today. We really excel at managing across multiple locations, and of course many cases retail operates in exactly that way, including the example that we're focusing in on today. So why cloud networking? Why are we taking this quite different approach to managing a data network? Well, let's have a look first of all at what the interface looks like. It's all graphical based and very rich in terms of information that it provides the network administrator. And these products that you see on the screen here are all designed to be managed in this way through this web browser based interface. There is no local management of these devices. They are designed to be managed and monitored via the cloud, via the internet, and that gives you enormous flexibility. If you think about how you access your webmail or perhaps your online banking from any device nowadays with a web browser, and that can be a smartphone as well as your computer, the beauty of being able to access this data wherever you can get an internet connection is so powerful. And so what we've done is taken the same concept and applied it to the world of data networking. Now, the architecture looks a little bit like this. As a network administrator, you log in through your web browser and you connect to the cloud-hosted management service. So up there in the cloud, we've got a bunch of servers sitting in racks in data centers, and these are dispersed. We have multiple data centers in North America and indeed around the world. And every single Meraki device is persistently connected to that cloud-hosted service. So if you look at the devices in the lower left of the diagram there, they show a dotted blue line labeled management data. This is a persistent connection that we maintain to the cloud, which enables us to exchange configuration and monitoring information between the cloud and the devices themselves. So this enables us to keep the configuration that sits on those devices bang up to date. So if you make a configuration change, it's simply synchronized down to the device so that it can begin operating with that change immediately. And that's very important, because if you are unlucky enough to be disconnected from the cloud for any reason, your configuration is running locally on the device, so it's still going to function and provide local area network services, even if you're unable to monitor the device during that period. So what we're trying, the reason why we're doing this really is because we believe it is the right way to approach the modern data network environment, which is far, far more dynamic than it was just a decade or so ago. Now that we have in our pockets our smartphones, we're carrying tablets and laptop computers everywhere we go, we are putting more and more applications and devices onto our networks. And for Cisco Meraki, we believe that this means you need a much more intuitive, simple, straightforward interface to work with on a day-to-day basis to ensure that those networks are always running at peak performance. So this is what we believe to be the right approach. You'll see in the live demonstration just how we do that in practice very shortly. We're also recognized very much for very rapid feature delivery, and you can see on the screen here where we've shown the different types of features that we've been adding during the lifetimes of some of these products. This is just an example, really just trying to indicate the fact that we are growing and adding to these products all the time. So even after we've shipped them, we continue to add new features at no additional cost to our customers to make sure that they maintain real value for our customer base. And many of the features that we add are actually based on feedback that we receive from the field as well. Okay, so at this point, I'd like to take this opportunity to introduce Greg Olander. so the Systems Administrator for Benbridge. Greg, if you'd like to just maybe give us a quick introduction, let us know how you fit into the Benbridge organization, and perhaps just tell us a little bit about who Benbridge is.
Hi, my name is Greg Olander. I'm the System Administrator here in Seattle for Benbridge Jeweler. We have approximately 80 retail stores, mostly in malls, across most of Western Washington, as far east as Texas, Minnesota, and a couple stores in Hawaii, and a couple in Alaska, and a few in Hawaii as well.
Very nice. So quite a dispersed environment there. Actually, we've got some stats on the screen right here. So, so you've been operating since 1912. So that's been quite a while there. Who is this character in the photo? I think you mentioned.
I believe that is Sam Silverman, who started the company back in 1912, and then his daughter actually married Benbridge, who took over the company.
Nice story.
And still family run.
Wonderful. Okay. So let's talk about the IT team quickly. So just maybe give us a feel for how many people you've got actively working in the team, where do they actually sit physically, and how many of them are focused specifically on the network side of things?
So a fairly small team. There's 9 people, and most of them involved in programming and the database side of things. So when it comes to the network, it's just me, which is why I chose something that could help me manage something large.
Well, that's quite a big responsibility. So you're looking after the network across all of those locations we talked about.
It's a fully managed MPLS network, so I'm not responsible for the edge routers at the stores, but I manage the company that manages those routers, yes.
Right, okay, great. So let's have a quick recap then on how Cisco Meraki actually came into Benbridge. So perhaps in terms of the different phases we can see on the screen here, the trials and getting yourself up and running with our products.
Yeah, I can. Basically, we were handed iPads from a vendor for, I don't know, 10 or 12 stores, and I was asked to get wireless in all the stores. There was about a wireless access point in about half of my stores, and it was an antiquated device that had to be managed individually. So the first thing I did was try to find something that I could manage from one spot. And a sister company of ours had just deployed Meraki and raved about it, and that's how I was introduced to it.
Very nice. So how did you actually get started off? Did you you had a trial?
I did. I had a trial with Meraki and with another vendor, and I put 2 Meraki units into 2 different stores and 2 of the competitors' devices into 2 other stores, and just ran with it for a month or 2. I had some problems with the other one. I had no problems with the Meraki. The price was relatively similar, so it was a somewhat easy decision, really.
Right, and I guess the aim here was really to try to unify around a single vendor rather than having all these point solutions that you had previously in your different locations.
Yes, it's much easier when you're small to have one place to look to.
Sure, especially if it's just you doing it, I guess. So you're operating in with a fully managed MPLS network between all those locations and in a hub and spoke format. So I'm guessing that means you have your servers all located at headquarters, so all of the different stores are coming into that. Is that correct?
Yes, all our servers are here in Seattle.
Right, okay. So as well as the wireless side of things, I think you also did a trial of our mobile device management software.
I did. I initially tried the MDM solution, and it worked well. I don't think I had enough time to really dig into it as much as I needed to, but for deploying for both not only what assets were out there, but to also do some simple things like enforcing screen locks and restricting some things on an iPad unit that we wanted to do. It was very easy to do.
All right. Okay, so how are you actually using mobile device management yourself today? I mean, what's the primary aim for you in using that kind of software on these devices?
I think the primary aim for any MDM is to keep track of everything, to restrict what we want to restrict on it, and to also push out content that we need to push out, whether that be our own, in this case now we have point of sale running on iPads, an update to that software, or even something as simple as pushing out a link to a website to all the iPads.
All right, very nice.
And then if one was to walk away, to be able to then wipe that device.
Yes, absolutely. And these is a very common list that we hear as well. And MDM has certainly become extremely popular now that people are deploying such large numbers of very expensive devices. I mean, these are not cheap devices to hand out to your staff, are they?
No.
Okay. All right, so let's have a quick, I'm very interested in hearing your thoughts around what your experience has been like working with the product up to this point. So how long has it actually been in place now?
About 2 years. Yeah, because I remember that, distinctly remember that right after I made the purchase, Cisco acquired Meraki. So it's been almost exactly 2 years.
Right, yeah. And so experience has been successful since then. I think it's
the experience has been good. Deployment was fairly simple. I actually configured all these devices here at my desk, so it was a matter of plugging in. And I don't know if there was an easier way, but I didn't look into it. I basically plugged these things in, configured what I needed to configure, and shipped it to the site. And once it was plugged in, it just came up. I think there was only one instance where it did not work like that, and that could have been my fault, and it was just a matter of configuring another one and sending it out.
Great, that's a nice story. It is absolutely one of the benefits that we talk about is the fact that you can what we call pre-stage all the equipment before, without even actually ever touching the devices themselves. You can start off with just the serial numbers, and you can just start configuring them, as you say, from your desk on your computer right in front of you.
And once they're plugged in, they get that information sent down to them. I think what made it more difficult for me is that I do not have DHCP out in my store, so I had to hard set a static IP into these things. But once again, once they were plugged in on site, they worked as expected.
Right, right. So I mean, I think in most cases, I think most people use DHCP services in nowadays, so that does automate the process a little bit easier. But obviously, it's always the case that you have to work with the existing environment that you're already familiar with. Okay, great. Let's have a look here. So centralized management. This is some of the benefits that we typically talk about around centralized management. We love your quote that we've got on the screen here. It really is trying to make everybody's lives easier. Have you actually implemented any of these functions yourself? So obviously plug-and-play devices. You've actually had, as you said already, configurations coming down from the cloud. What about looking at what's going on with the network itself?
It's something that I typically do every day. I'm looking at the map right now, and I'm seeing all green. And I think the other thing is the alerts. So once I configured that I get alerts, if any of these units go down, I'm notified of that. And sometimes it's not just the AP itself. Sometimes it's the entire network, and I can be ahead of even the MPLS provider creating a proactive ticket and contact them to get things happening faster.
Yeah, it's one of the things that we really do like our customers to notice is the fact that they can get value out of this very quickly and easily every single day. So it's not a laborious task to go in and look at what the network is doing. It's going to provide you with value every day without having to spend a lot of time doing it as well. Okay, so from a troubleshooting perspective, have you had any instances over the past couple of years where you've needed to go and use the tool to try and help you identify the nature of an issue, particularly?
Yeah, I think with clients, so any wireless client not being able to connect, the first thing I'm going to go do is look at that particular site's access point and see if that device is reporting being on the network. Because in many cases, since we are static, sometimes devices are connected, but they lose their static IP information. So it has helped in that sense.
Great. Yeah, we do try to put really good troubleshooting tools into the interface, and then I think we're probably going to move on to the demo very shortly, so we'll be able to show people what that looks like when it's actually out there in practice. So in terms of supporting business solutions, maybe just describe for us what technology is actually using these wireless networks within your stores across the country.
It began with just one iPad in the store to simply get get content in front of a customer, to interactively use a tool with a customer to help bring information regarding what they're trying to sell, the jewelry there. We've now since implemented 2 point-of-sale iPads in all of our stores as well. So now it's not only can you bring that same information, but you can take care of the sale and complete it all right there on a mobile device anywhere in the store.
That's very nice. I often find that in some of the large stores as well, which saves you having to line up to make a purchase.
Yes.
Really nice use of the technology. So do you have any further plans for expanding any further in terms of devices in the sites, or maybe, I don't know, guest networks?
Yeah, well, I think that there may be an instance where, because right now this is all on my private network, so there could be a potential for marketing side of things where maybe we deploy some sort of guest network that allows the customers to connect to just the internet and then be able to push content to those devices that are connected to help drive people to our stores.
Fantastic. Yeah, we'll show how you can go about setting that up in the demo as well. That would be useful. I've just covered all this stuff. There we are. So future plans. I mean, that's certainly, well, it looks like maybe potentially moving on from wireless into potentially switches as well at some point.
Yes, I think that with VoIP phones ending up in the stores hopefully within the next 5 years, there's a potential for switches out in our stores as well, and VoIP traffic, absolutely.
Mm-hmm. One of the nice things here, of course, is that any Cisco Meraki device is all managed through the same interface, so you end up with both your wired and wireless clients showing up in the dashboard in a sort of combined view, which makes it really easy to identify which is which and to start troubleshooting if you need to. So let me take this opportunity then to jump across to my web browser, and what I'm going to do is log into, Greg has kindly given me permission to log into the Benbridge network so we can have a quick look there and see how things are deployed. Don't forget that if you have any questions you'd like to ask, you can use the tool at any time on the right-hand side, and if you'd like those to be directed towards Greg, we'll make sure we pick those up before we wrap things up at the end of the hour. Okay, so we're starting off here at the overview page. You may, though, if you were being particularly eagle-eyed, you may have seen a screen capture that looked very much like this on one of the slides we looked at earlier. So this is showing the various different locations of the Benbridge network, as you can see, dotted all the way around the western United States. So a total of 264 live clients we have on there right now, and you can see on this overview page current status of health. I call this the connectivity bar, and it shows us really the health over a period of time, in this case over the past week, for this network, so we can see how much traffic has passed. So we can see, for example, there that we had a little blip at some point. Maybe it might have been a reset or perhaps a power issue somewhere, and it's very handy to be able to go back and troubleshoot in this way to see what's happened historically. Now what we can do from this point is we can just jump into any one of these if we wanted to go and have a look at more detail. So if I just pick on this, this network here, and we just zoom in on this Google Maps network, we can start going all the way into a specific store if we wish to do so. So we can see here these are actual access point placements, and what we can do is we can load these up on Google Maps, but we can also deploy our own floor plans as well, so we can upload that information, which is really handy to be able to do. So let's go and look at this specific access point. So again, we have the map location here, and as I said, you can easily upload a floor plan to place an access point into a particular location. And if you have 3 or more access points in a particular location, then you can actually begin to triangulate the location of clients within your physical space as well. So here we see this a summary screen for a particular access point in store 201. And we've got the address in here, and we can see the SSIDs, that's the wireless networks that are currently in use. So we have one that's enabled there, and that's the name of the network and Under details, it says this is on, so it means it's currently available and serving on that access point right now. You can see the IP address for the device, and you can also see which channels it's operating on. So we can see from this that this access point is operating dual band, so we have both 2.4 and 5 gig radios active serving clients. And we have a 1 gigabit uplink to the wired network on this location. So we can see the number of connected clients, and this is live information as I'm speaking to you. It's obviously evolving at this time. And then you can see that we have a number of live tools that we can use for troubleshooting purposes. So for example, we can take a look at the channel utilization on an access point, and it's very common to see that the 2.4 gigahertz radio is usually busier than the 5 gigahertz radio. So this is particularly common, and in fact if you have a retail establishment that's within a mall where there's typically a lot of Wi-Fi, you can often see much higher utilization than this. So this is actually quite a very reasonable level. So you should be getting a good experience if you're connected to this AP right now. We can do a spectrum analysis as well. We have ping test, trace routes, usual troubleshooting tools you expect a network engineer to have. And if you do have multiple access points as well, and you're trying to manage those from a central location, as Greg is doing, we do have the ability to blink the LEDs. A very simple concept, but a very useful one, because if you've got somebody local on site and you want them to go and plug a cable into a particular access point, for example, or to disconnect a cable, then you can just blink the LEDs on that particular AP so that they can see that information. So that's just one of the APs, and here's the list that we have in total for the Bend Bridge network. So we've got 83 access points in total, and here you can see that we have we can sort by the number of currently connected clients. So the IT lab is the busiest, and then we have quite a few users out at store number 13. There's a lot of information that you can display on the screen here, and it is all real-time information. So these green indications on the left-hand side, they're telling me that all these APs are in a healthy state. And if I had a big enough monitor, I can put all of these different columns into this display as well. And we can sort by any one of these, so we can see which location is passing the most traffic. So there we go. Store 206 seems to be the one that's experiencing the most. Now, when a network troubleshooter or a network administrator wants to have a look and see what's going on in their environment, they would normally want to start off on the client's page, because this is showing us just really what's going on this network over the past period of time. And you can actually do this for clients who are based on wireless or wired or both within the same view. So let's change this view to the last week, for example, for this particular store. And sure enough, there you can see the day-to-day traffic peaks for this particular AP, and the fact that in the past week we have seen 264 exclusive client devices. Now, in some environments, this can get very, very high. In our headquarters, where I'm speaking to you from today, for example, we often see this number reaching into several thousand. So we have this search tool built in, which really helps you to quickly identify specific device types. So, for example, I could type in iPad, and I can see that out of the 264 total devices, 177 of those were iPads, which certainly rings true with what Greg was saying about point of sale and the display devices they have there. This also works for operating systems as well. So if I type in Windows, I can see any Windows-based devices that are on here. And this is not just a simple name-based search. We are doing proper device fingerprinting here, so that we can accurately identify the device type that we're looking at. Up here we have what I call the applications pie chart, and this shows us the applications that are consuming bandwidth across this network. Now, this can be particularly useful if you have a relatively low amount of bandwidth going to some of your locations, because you want to make sure in that case that the bandwidth is being used effectively. So if I click on this pie chart, it's going to give me this really nice drop-down table here, which is going to show me the actual applications that are being used in this environment at this time. And these are sorted by group usage. You can sort, obviously, by any one of these. So I don't know, Greg, I don't know if you want to comment on how typical this list looks, but this is fairly common, I would say. We often see a lot of cloud-based services and streaming services appearing on networks nowadays. It's quite common, and there are all kinds of reasons why that may be.
Yeah, this just looks pretty common to me.
Right, yeah, and that's the key thing. You want to come in, you're looking for anomalies. What I tend to point out here is in some environments, some of these applications may not be considered to be appropriate use of the network. So let's pick on YouTube as an example. So I would imagine in retail it's perfectly legitimate to be showing customer videos and so on for promotional purposes, but in some types of business it may not be considered to be good use of the network. Or it may be that a particular user is just swamping the network with far too much traffic of a particular application. So you can see here that we get a list of the actual clients who are contributing that YouTube traffic. You can see how easy it is for me to hop around and get all of this detail. So there we have an iPad in store number 31. So we jump into that specific device, and we can see that that is online right now. So that's why this icon is green. We can see its current signal strength, and this will probably change as I'm speaking to you because it is actually live information. So there we go. It's just changed from 22 to 21 dB signal strength, and it's operating in the 5 gigahertz band. We can see its location here. We can see what the device is capable of, and then we can look at specifics for this individual device if we wish to do so. Now, if we imagine this situation where this level of traffic performance was perhaps too much and we wanted to do something about this, well, we have some options at our fingertips. And again, very quick and easy for me to go around and identify all of these options. So for example, I could go and block this device altogether right now from the network and send a message, actually better than see Greg, let's see Greg. So we could send that message to this iPad, and then that would appear as a pop-up on the screen there, and they would not be able to do anything else on the network till they've had a quiet word with Greg to make sure they're behaving appropriately. Another thing we could do here is we could apply a group policy. So a group policy is different to blocking somebody from the network. It's more about altering their experience as they're using the network. So perhaps it's the case that we're concerned about YouTube traffic, then you could actually go ahead and create a group policy to do something about that. So let me show you how easy it would be to go ahead and do this. So all we would need to do here is set up a new group policy, and we could just call this YouTube, for example. So we want to do something with YouTube with this policy. We can determine when this policy is actually going to apply. So it might be that you only need this to operate, let's say, 8 till 5 daily. Obviously, you can change this as you wish. So we can change if you've got late night shopping, perhaps on a Thursday. And then we have some choices around how we treat any user or any device that's placed into this policy. So we can set a custom bandwidth limit if we wish to do so. Very easy to do with this slider. I can just move this up and down and say I'm going to give 1 meg per second for any clients that are placed into this environment. We can also set some customized firewall and traffic shaping rules if we wish to do so. So layer 7 is really nice. If you've not used this before, these terms are not familiar. Obviously a firewall is there to try and prevent access to specific types of application or website. So we've made it very easy with what we call a layer 7 firewall, which uses normal human readable names. So for example, as you can see here, if I type in google.com, then I would simply block all access to all Google services using that approach. And we've built a whole bunch of categories that can be selected here to make your life easier. So for example, social web and photo sharing, and if I wanted to, I could just say let's block Facebook as part of this policy. And then we also have the capability of doing traffic shaping, which would enable you to again identify a specific application that will have a certain type of experience. So if I pick on video and music here, and that will include YouTube for sure, and then I can again move this slider to determine how much bandwidth I'm going to give to the applications that are in this category. So this is slightly different to a firewall where you simply block the traffic altogether. We're still going to allow video and music, but we're only going, we're only going to give those 500 kilobits per second of data throughput. So there's really quite a lot that you can do there. Let me just switch across back to the slides now. Greg, I don't know if there's anything you'd like me to quickly show on the interface here.
No, not that I can think of.
Okay, that's fine. Let's have a very quick look at the mobile device management. This is the few trial devices that are in operation here. So we can see this is a slightly different approach. So now rather than looking at network devices, we're now looking at specific client devices, so in this case certain iPads. So we could jump into a specific device, and again we have location capability, so we can see the location of that device. And now, because we're looking at just this device in more detail, we can see, for example, its battery charge, it's fully charged right now, how much storage space it's got on there, and so on. If this device was unluckily lost or stolen, perhaps, then you could go ahead and do something about that. So, for example, you could go and erase the device altogether, or you could do what we call a selective wipe. And a selective wipe is just going to remove any applications and settings that we have deployed to the device whilst it's been managed. So, for example, it could then be redeployed for different purposes. So with MDM, what we can also do is set restrictions onto a device type. So we've got some restrictions that have been set here. So we're looking at mostly the iOS environment here. You notice that we do also support Android as well as the Windows and Mac operating systems as well. But you can see here that, that Greg's turned off access to certain applications, things like Siri and iTunes related applications. And that's very, very quick and easy to do with this tool. We've also set a passcode requirement on the device. So we want to make sure that those devices are always going to get locked when the screens are left idle. There's such a lot that you can show on here, but obviously we want to be we're mindful of the time. So I'll take the opportunity to go back to the slides at this point. All right, so a very great partnership, I think, between Cisco Meraki and Ben Bridge. Let's have a look at some of the additional features that we find retailers are often making use of nowadays. So quite popular in the news at the moment is items around what we call locational analytics. Cisco calls this CMX, or Connected Mobile Experiences, and the aim here is to try to provide some insight for the retailer as to how many people are visiting the store, how long they typically spend in the store, and whereabouts they would be located within that store. And there's a lot we can do with this information. Obviously, I'll show you how the architecture looks in just a moment. So all of Cisco Meraki's APs are able to gather this kind of information about number of clients in the same way that people counting technologies have been used in retail for many years now. But this is the beauty of this, is that it's actually something which the access points themselves are capable of. So we can start to record the number of visitors that we've seen into a particular store. We can compare, for example, between multiple locations. And then what do we do with this information? Well, there's actually quite a lot we can do with it. So let's walk around this diagram. Over in the lower left-hand corner, we have a customer who's come into our store using a wireless device that's switched on, and the access point's able to identify that that device has appeared. Obviously, you saw during the demonstration that we're able to see the clients there. And then what we can do is actually do some analytics, some analysis of this information. So what we can do, for example, is we can tie a particular device to an existing customer database that the retailer may be using. Once they have that information, then they have something quite powerful at their disposal, which is that they can now see that a particular customer of theirs, maybe a Ben Bridge regular, has come back into the store, so they're clearly interested in making a purchase at some point. So this would be an ideal opportunity to provide some free Wi-Fi, but also then maybe to push a a splash screen with information about special offers that are available in the store on that particular day. So this is something which we're starting to see happen more and more with retailers, and it's really a development from the concept of store cards and loyalty and so on. So if a customer has expressed a particular interest in a retailer, then it's, I think, perfectly reasonable then that things like offers and information about what the retailer is doing, maybe special deals, can be shared with that user's devices. So let me show you that in practice, and for doing that, what I'll do is I'll flip across to our own headquarters network where we've got all of this set up and running already. So we also have quite a number of access points, although this is all within a single building. So if I just show you quickly what we've got here. So 21 access points around our building location. And those 21 access points are passing a lot of traffic. So, for example, just in the past day, we have transferred over 1.5 terabytes of data on this network. So it really is a very busy one. And this is also a combined network with both wired and wireless clients included. So what I'm going to do is quickly show you a couple of the things we can do with location, which are really nice. So first of all, we have the location heat map. Let me just zoom in slightly. And the way this works, it's a very simple concept, should be fairly intuitive to you. All we need to do here is just select a day of the week, and we just press on this play button here. What it's going to do as it rolls is it's going to show me how many clients have been clustered around specific APs during the course of the day. Now this is obviously a business office, so its environment is rather different to a retail store. But you can imagine that if you had this covering a large retail establishment in a mall, for example, it would really help you to understand the movement of your potential customers. Maybe there are particular areas of your store that are particularly popular that you can provide focus on, or maybe you need to add an additional access point to make sure you've got enough coverage and enough performance for those users. And then the other aspect I showed you briefly on the slides was the location analytics. So this is what it looks like in practice. So we see here information, and this is again for the past week. And this is showing us how many people have effectively walked past or been noticed by our wireless access points. So 5,500, and these may be people who are walking outside in the street, as well as our own employees within the building. We certainly don't have anywhere near that many, but of course quite a few Meraki customers, employees do have quite a few devices. Now if those devices are actually seen for more than a certain period of time, as you can see on the screen here, then they move from being classified as a passerby to being classified as a visitor. So this is somebody who's clearly expressed an interest in your particular retail store, that they've hung around for a certain period of time, and then finally we have the connected clients, the ones who've actually gone ahead and joined a wireless network which has been made available to them. Now if you're running this across multiple stores, we also have a comparison tool built in. So we can look at how, let's say, our headquarters compare with, let's have a look at the London office, for example. So volume of traffic clearly, and number of users is clearly quite a bit higher in headquarters, as you might expect. But you can quickly and easily see side by side how many passers-by, visitors, and connected clients we have seen over that past period of time. So that's very simple information that's built into the dashboard interface, and then we use an API to pass some of this detail to a third-party database, which will enable you to link to your customer database. Okay, so let's wrap things up on the slides, and then we'll take a few minutes to review a few questions. So first of all, obviously the wireless access points have been the primary focus today. We have 6 different models in the family, and we have 4 that operate indoors and 2 outdoors. Included in the family is our latest and greatest 802.11ac access point. If you've not heard of that before, it is simply the next generation wireless standard, which takes us into a much higher level of performance, potentially as high as about a gig of throughput per second on those wireless networks. So obviously technology is always marching forwards. 802.11n is the standard which Benbridge is using today and will be with us for many years to come. I'm sure you will know from your own experience that most of us are still using 802.11g, which is at least a decade old now. So these wireless standards do have a very long lifespan. AC is really, we're right at the beginning of deployments of the AC standard. You can see that a lot of functionality is built in just to the access point, and when you purchase, you don't buy a controller, for example, you only need to buy the access point and the license that's used to manage that device. Now we also have security appliances in our family, and so these are ideal for creating site-to-site networks across a large MPLS environment, perhaps very much like Benbridge has. Again, lots of functionality built in to those security appliances. And then we also have the LAN switches built in, and there are 14 different models of these, so really something for everybody here, starting from a very small 8-port switch, probably ideal for a small retail outlet, just providing a few wired clients there, and they will also support power over Ethernet, so it can power the access points as well without you having to have a separate power supply. And we scale all the way up to large 48-port switches with very high throughput levels, appropriate for more of an aggregation of access layer switches or perhaps even a data center. And then last but not least, we have our mobile device management software that we call Systems Manager. Now the nice thing about this is it's another great way to get introduced to Cisco Meraki, to add some value into your own environment at absolutely zero cost. So we provide Systems Manager free to use. Obviously, if you want to get support from us, then we do make a small charge for that. But for use of the product, it's completely free of charge. There's nothing to download. All you need to do is register for this. So it's an ideal opportunity to try out Cisco Meraki, perhaps while you're waiting for your access points to arrive. We're always very keen to get these products into our customers' or potential customers' hands, because we know that once people start to use them, they generally fall in love with the interface that I've been showing you, and as they see how much information they can get very easily from their network. Many customers I've spoken to tell me that they just never knew before they saw our product. They never really understood what was going on their network and how their bandwidth was being consumed. All right, so we have reached the end of the presentation. So what I'd like to do now is just take a few minutes before we wrap things up, just to see if we've got some questions that we can share with everybody. And obviously now, if you have a question, please go ahead and ask that on the tool in the right-hand side of your screen. And we'll see if we've got some for Greg as well to keep us nice and busy. So just bear with me a moment. I'm just going to review the questions that we have here. Okay, so I have got a question for you here, Greg, and that's around security. So this individual would like to understand what kind of security you've got in place today, whether you have any plans for increasing security or how you handle that, really.
The security of the access point and the clients?
Yes, I think that.
Right now, it's just a pre-shared key. So I would like to see certificates, yes, but that has not been implemented yet.
Okay, so good opportunity then just to highlight that we can support certificate-based access to the network. I'm sure you're aware of that, Greg. So we can use things like Active Directory for registering clients correctly. Okay, let me have a look here. So a lot of questions here, so I'm just looking for interesting ones to share with us all. Right, yes, great question here from Laura about pushing applications to mobile devices. I didn't actually show that, that part during the demo, so let me quickly just flip back and show you on the dashboard how we do that. So for doing this, I will log into our own Systems Manager network. And on this we have a large number of clients. We've got, here we go, 200. It's building up the whole time, so 1,092, I think it's finished loading at that point. So lots of clients, and again I can just do an easy search to identify specific device types so that I can display any one of these that I like. So here's one for example. And then for deploying applications, it's really simple and straightforward to do. We just go into the apps page and select add new, and then I decide, is this an iOS app or an Android app? So most of the time iOS with MDM. So then I just do a search. So let's say that our sales team has been very successful this month. We want to reward them by giving them a game to play for a little while. So we're going to send out Angry Birds to their devices. So here we go, we've got Angry Birds. I can just click on add here, and then it's going to ask me, okay, which of my devices do I want to deploy Angry Birds to? And by default it's going to show me all of the clients that are able to run the application, but normally in practice what we would do is actually go ahead and select a specific tag. So I mentioned sales, who've got different tags that we've built here. So there's the sales team, and that shows me I've got 2 iPads here. So if I click on save, that's actually going to push that application out to those devices. I don't have to do anything else. There's nothing else to touch on the devices themselves. That it'll just appear as an application, so I'm sure that will give them a pleasant surprise. So very simple to do. You can also, of course, remove applications in exactly the same way. Any managed application is under your control so that you can go in and make changes as you see fit. And we do also support Apple's volume purchasing program, as you can see here, VPP, which enables you to push out applications from a license pool to a large number of devices simultaneously. So this would be a great way to deploy an app to every one of your in-store devices. Okay, let's have a look at other questions. So good question here about location accuracy. It does increase the more access points that you have. Obviously, if you have a single AP, you're not able to triangulate, as the name suggests, the location of a specific device very effectively. We simply then look at the signal strength of the received device. So if you're really interested in getting accurate location information, you're going to need a number of APs dotted around your environment so that you can do the heat map display that I showed you in the demo recently. So a question about whether you'd be able to run specific types of infrared scanners, often used in the retail environment. As long as these support standard Wi-Fi 802.11, and that can be from the B standard upwards, we can support all of those wireless standards. So there's no problem at all with using different types of devices. Managing those may take a little bit of effort if they're particularly old devices. They may not provide us with the automated information we saw about particular device types. Okay, great question here from Mark about security between the access point and Meraki's cloud. So one of the key points that we always like to stress for our customers is that we take obviously security extremely seriously. All communications that occur both from my browser to the cloud-based service and also from the access points to the cloud, they are fully TLS encrypted connections. And also they are running a very bespoke software as well. So we do not use off-the-shelf software to help run this infrastructure. This has all been designed from the ground up by our engineers. Now within the cloud itself, we have multiple data centers, and those do share information between them so that your configuration is never held in one specific location. And that's very important. Obviously, if you're unlucky enough to lose a data center or for whatever reason it might be, that information, the configuration for your devices, is always held in more than one place. There is a very good website that you can go and have a look at, which will provide you with, I'm sure, a lot of confidence around this, and that is meraki.cisco.com/trust. So this website will talk about, for example, PCI compliance. We are level 1 PCI compliance. That's the most stringent level of PCI compliance, as I'm sure many of you will know. Okay, great question here about whether we can authenticate users using the Cisco ICE. That's the Identity Services Engine from Cisco, and absolutely the answer is yes. You can simply relay authentication requests to an ICE server, which can be used to authenticate users, just the same way as, for example, a Microsoft Active Directory. A question here about whether we can restrict maximum user bandwidth by login, and so this is a very good question based around policies, which I showed you earlier. Now, policies can be actually deployed based on user types. You can actually create groups which can be imported. So let me show you how this works. Let's go back to Meraki Core. So let's take an example of, let's have a look here. What I'm looking for is this one here. So this is the Active Directory setup screen for a security appliance that you would place at the top of your local area network. And what you can do here is you can actually import from a specific AD server the groups that are built into that. So for example, in a business environment, you might have your sales team, your marketing team, your engineering team. You can then apply policies against users who are part of that group. So that's then automated. As soon as they join to the network, they're authenticated, they will get that specific experience. We can also, if we wish to do so, apply policies based on device type. So if I wanted to, I could create a policy that's just for iPads. So any time an iPad jumps onto the network, I'm going to be able to see and apply certain behaviors to that. Okay, so we have reached the top of the hour now. I'm conscious of everybody's time. Obviously, we want to get things wrapped up at this point in time. So what I'd like to do at this point is thank you very much indeed for your time and attention over the past hour. We have covered a lot of ground. I hope you found it particularly useful. Greg, I'd like to just give you one last opportunity if you'd like to pass any comments on to our listeners today.
Pass any comments on? Gosh, not that I can think of off the top of my head. I mean, other than I've been extremely happy with the product so far. I think I've somewhat underutilized it. So I even found some interesting information here.
That's great. That's good to know. Thank you very much. Well, the kind of comment I would like to pass to everybody is to wish you all a very enjoyable rest of your day. We do look forward to hearing from you again very soon. On the way out the door, there is a quick 2-question survey which we use to help to ensure that these webinars are useful to people who attend in the future. So I'd be very grateful if you could just spend a moment just answering those questions for us. So thanks again for joining us. Really enjoy the rest of your day, and bye-bye for now.